Now it's time for Tipisodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
All right, welcome everyone into the Tipisode today. Happy Friday, everyone. We are talking about influencers, influencer culture, and I think beyond that, just how to meaningfully impact others and influence others to get better, get healthier, have positive impacts, positive changes. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is, I guess, for two reasons. One reason, and probably the lesser of the two reasons, is because over the last several years, I've seen some really good, incredibly smart and savvy dental hygiene leaders that I know go down a path of craving the spotlight, right? If you go back 10, 15 years, this influencer stuff didn't exist. But for whatever reason, this craving of attention that comes with being an influencer took hold of these really talented people, and they completely changed who they were. All of a sudden, they had a ton of work done. And by that, I mean, the Botox and the fillers and all these things, maybe some other surgical things, wild swings in makeup and hair and clothes. And they just talked to the camera in a way that wasn't really them either, because in behind closed doors, they never talked like that, or even out in the group, they just never were like that. They were always thinking about, quote unquote, content creation, and they lose a part of them that was just able to enjoy the moment, right? Like just being there and enjoying that and not thinking about how can I use this moment for like a promotional piece or for, quote unquote, content that we're going to put on social media. Maybe it's not as shallow and as fake as it seems. And maybe they are more happy and maybe not. Time will tell, I guess, on that one. But this kind of radical change didn't happen like this, years and years ago to this level. So it's hard to see them kind of pull away. And when they pull away, what I've noticed is that the depth of their influence definitely changed. It was a lot more superficial, much more surface level stuff. So that's one reason. And while that's not the main reason is actually because I just had a conversation with my kids. As a lot of these ideas come about, I'm having a conversation with my kids. I'm asking, what are they seeing? What do they like about the things that they're doing in our family? Asking why is really important. And so, if they have a game that they like, they don't really actually get a lot of games, but there's a game or a YouTube channel, like why do they like what they like? And I would say, my kids, because they don't really have the games, they don't none of them have social media. I think they're a little bit atypical in some of the ways, which I think kind of is good and bad. My oldest boy is 17, my next boy is 15, and my daughter is 12. But here we are having these conversations, and I just asked them, like, what do influencers do? And they essentially described it as someone who has a lot of followers, gets paid to promote a product or a company. And because they are, for them, it's the cool kids and or the cool person, and everyone wants to be like them. Other people do whatever the influencer wants them to do, which I guess is kind of what we all expect that answer to be, right? I asked them if they ever felt like they had been influenced by these celebrity types for them. And they essentially said, no, that's not something that's a big deal for them. And so from this really small sample size, basing off of their answers, I'm going to run with this maybe a little bit wild of an assumption. I think that influencer culture, as we know it on social media and such, is dying. I think that kids are seeing through the schemes that influencers have used at the beginning, and then how they changed over time. And then now here we are years later and how they adapted. I think the kids are seeing right through all of that. But we, the older generation, I think we're often the last to know about like what's hip and trendy and things like that. We're probably a little bit more susceptible, or maybe at least a little bit more aware of influencers in our lives, because we haven't, been, I guess, inundated we didn't grow up with this. This is different. So if my assumption is true, then it lends the question, like, how can we meaningfully influence those around us? Because we need to. We have scores of people that need our influence if we're doing the right thing, from our patients and our coworkers to our, our families, our friends. I mean, dang, people sitting on in the airplane next to us, or if you're going out to trivia nights, there are people that can benefit from positive influence. And so Let's jump in. I have 3 ways listed, typical Andrew fashion, a little bit long-winded, but 3 ways that we can be a real influencer or what a real influencer does. So number 1 is to be present. So old man Andrew here again to talk to you about, how much time we're spending on our phones and on social media. And look, I don't think it's all bad that, if you want to play a game, to play 2 games, I don't really care, on your phone, or you like to scroll through social media. You're in the waiting room at the doctor's office and you're just bored and you want to scroll through social media. Fantastic. But can you have a meal with someone without picking up your phone? Again, 5 years ago, I would say that most of us would be like, oh yeah, we don't need our phone. But I bet now, if we're being honest with ourselves, it's a lot harder. And this isn't just the young kids, this is across all generations. We're constantly thinking about that digital space that we're consuming. And along the same lines, it's the earbuds thing. Are we constantly listening to podcasts? Are we constantly listening to music? Are we the kind who always have maybe just one earbud in instead of 2? Because we're trying to fill that kind of quiet, empty space with something, whether it's music or someone talking or something. It doesn't allow us for quiet reflection, right? It also gets us to constantly be thinking. And so we can have a harder time being present. So if you truly want to influence someone, you have to be present. In our ops, you got to swing that chair around. You can't talk to them from behind their head. Don't look at the monitors, look at them right in the eyeballs. Listen, really trying to hear their words. You are not present if you're trying to jump to the solution of the problems that they're explaining to you before they have finished. You're not present if you're only thinking about how far you are behind in the appointment time and how are you going to make up the time. That's not being present. These are real people, and your job is to help heal them. They need you to influence their behaviors and their habits. So you have to slow it down. You have to be present for them. I won't get into the whole business side of it, but I will tell you what, a real influencer does much better on the business side as well. Number 2 is be genuine. You know what this is, right? So stop with the platitudes, the trite little cliches. Be real with people when you interact with them. It's not uncommon at the grocery store that I try and catch people off guard because I think that they are also not being genuine with me or they're not being present with me. And they ask how I am because that's what they do for every customer that comes through the line. And so it's kind of fun for me to try and shake it up a little bit. They asked how my day is. I said, you know what? It actually was really, really good. Most of my days really are good, though, as I'm not lying to them. Like, do I get tired and annoyed and angry and all of the things? Sure, of course. But overall, like if you look at your whole entire day and you break up into all of the minutes, how many of those minutes were you really upset or annoyed? My day is overwhelmingly positive. Almost never are they just fine or they just okay. But it takes just this quick second to be like, you know what? I really did have a great day. How was yours? And slow it down. Be there. Be genuine. I think it's also worth noting that asking questions of others and having a genuine desire to know the answers is a great way to open up that trust between the two of you. So a great way to demonstrate this is by just asking a follow-up question to whatever their initial question was, having a thoughtful follow-up question. I think one of the worst things you could do in that situation is to, if they ask a question or they have a statement, then there's that little pause, like, the pause, like people aren't paying attention. I think we had this on the phone all the time, like growing up, where, someone's really, really long-winded and we're like, like that, the whole thing. Having those types of responses are just not helpful. I think having the, monosyllabic responses, the, oh, okay, cool. Those types of responses are not really helpful at all. Not being genuine. And that's going to ruin the trust that you have. And so when you're trying to get behavior changes, they're not going to be there for you, and because you're not there for them. Number 3 is to be kind and to be thankful. It's the whole adage, you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar. I think that's the saying. Influencing doesn't work just on people. If you think about our pups that we all love, one of the top lessons that dog owners need to learn, and they're taught in just about every obedience class, is that dogs don't respond to aggressive or fear-based training. They need to associate things like their crate with a positive experience. If you're constantly yelling at them and putting them in their crate as a punishment, they will eventually learn to stop going into it and stop obeying, which is going to make you even more frustrated but it's because of the yelling and the being mean in the beginning. And people are similar. If we treat others with kindness, overwhelmingly, we're going to be met with kindness in return. But if we show our gratitude with genuine thanks, people are more likely to continue the behavior that we just showed appreciation for. Now, in the where this gets a little bit tricky sometimes is that we confuse being kind with placating our patients when they're not doing the right thing for like home care. We shouldn't be so quick to dismiss it, but through kindness and gratitude for things that they're doing right, we can kind of get them where they need to be. So kind of, I know there's lots of words, but kind of what I'm trying to say there is, when someone says, I just don't floss as much as I should, you can't be like, oh, it's okay, you'll get it next time. Like, we think that sometimes that's being kind and it's not really being kind. So we need to really be intentional with our words in that way. I think in summary, nothing what I said today was new or earth shattering, groundbreaking, whatever you want to call it. Human behavior has been established for centuries and centuries, and there's common principles that continue to work across all the groups, and it's just the way it is. Like that, there's a truth to that. I think getting online and talking to a camera to get likes and a large following isn't really being a real influencer. I do want to say, as kind of a caveat to all this, there are really amazing people who do have large followings, who are doing good things, and who are talking to a camera and having a positive influence and really are influencing others through the type of content that they put out. So that is probably a little caveat I probably should have said at the very beginning. But for you, if you're not trying to get the clicks and the likes and the things, start small, start local. There are way more people who don't care about social media influencers than there are that do care. And those are your patients. Those are the people in your community. Those are your family members. Those are your friends. Focus on them, influence them. I appreciate you listening to my ramblings so much all the time. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. If there's anything I can do for you, please reach out, Andrew@atale2hygienist.com. Have a great weekend.
A tale of two hygienists.